It was a quiet morning in Chicago when Major Diggs Brown, a distinguished Army veteran who had given over 30 years of service, entered the popular Cochon Volant restaurant. A resilient man, Major Brown had faced many challenges, both on the battlefield and within his own mind. After returning from Afghanistan, he carried with him not only his memories of service but also the burdens of post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. Like many veterans, his adjustment back to civilian life had been rough, and PTSD became a daily challenge. To manage his symptoms, Brown relied on his loyal service dog, Arthur. Trained to assist him in moments of distress, Arthur was more than a companion. He was a lifeline. Service dogs, like Arthur, are essential for many individuals coping with disabilities, especially for those grappling with the unseen wounds of war, such as PTSD. In Major Brown's case, Arthur provided a sense of calm, helped him navigate anxiety, and even interrupted his nightmares, offering comfort through his presence. With this essential bond, Brown was finally able to find stability, wean himself off medication, and start rebuilding his life. However, on this day, the simple act of enjoying a breakfast would unravel in a way he hadn't anticipated. Upon entering the restaurant, Brown was greeted by the hostess, who courteously guided him to a table. Seated and with Arthur beside him, Brown was prepared to order his breakfast and settle in for a calm start to his day. But his peace was short-lived. Just as he was beginning to unwind, a young staff member named Hannah approached. To Brown's dismay, Hannah informed him that dogs were not allowed in the restaurant. Politely, Brown explained Arthur's role, stating that his service dog had every right to accompany him under the Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA. With calm conviction, he recounted that ADA regulations required public places, including restaurants, to accommodate service animals. "This is my service dog. He can go wherever I go. It's the law," he asserted, feeling confident in his knowledge. But despite his explanation, Hannah seemed unimpressed. Brown had barely begun to relax when Hannah returned, this time with more insistence. She repeated her demand that he and Arthur leave, firmly maintaining that the restaurant did not permit dogs, even as service animals. Brown felt a sting of humiliation, but still, he tried to reason with her. He once more explained Arthur's role and his rights as a veteran with a disability. Yet, Hannah was unmoved. "I don't care," she said firmly. "You need to leave." Dejected and humiliated, Brown had no choice but to exit the restaurant, feeling rejected by the very society he had dedicated his life to protect. As Major Brown walked away from Cochon Volant, the sting of the incident settled in deeper. It wasn't just about being denied a meal, it was about feeling unwelcome, misunderstood, and ultimately undervalued for the sacrifices he'd made. For someone who had spent years fighting for his country only to return home to a world that sometimes seemed indifferent to his struggles, this was a blow that hit hard. Arthur, sensing his owner's distress, walked close, his calm presence a reminder that not all was lost. While he waited at the airport to catch his flight back to Fort Collins, the emotions from the incident continued to churn inside him. Brown decided that he needed to share what had happened, not for revenge, but to highlight the larger issue at hand. Too often, people with disabilities face unnecessary obstacles because of misunderstandings and lack of knowledge about their rights. As Brown reflected, he realized that if this incident had happened to him, it could happen to others as well, and maybe even worse for people who lacked his knowledge of ADA laws. When he finally arrived home, he took to social media to share his story, hoping that raising awareness might prevent similar incidents in the future. He wrote about how he and his service dog, Arthur, had been denied service despite explaining their legal rights under the ADA. He described the sense of rejection he felt and his disappointment in the way Cochon Volant had responded to a veteran with a documented need for a service animal. In his post, he ended with a line that resonated with many. "Guess this would be a case of no thanks for your service." The post quickly began to gain traction. Friends, family, fellow veterans, and supporters shared his story, expressing their outrage and support for Brown and other veterans facing similar challenges. His post was shared thousands of times, reaching far beyond his circle. People from across the country voiced their shock at the restaurant's actions and demanded accountability. The incident highlighted a lack of awareness in the general public and business establishments about the rights of people with disabilities and the importance of service animals in their daily lives. As Brown's story went viral, the management at Cochon Volant became aware of the situation. Recognizing the error, the restaurant owner reached out to Brown personally, both calling him and sending an email with an apology. They acknowledged that what had happened was not acceptable and assured Brown that they would make changes to prevent this from happening again. In their public statement on social media, Cochon Volant's management expressed deep regret over how Brown had been treated. The Cochon Volant family is both saddened and disappointed to hear this account of a veteran's experience, they wrote, explaining that they were aware of ADA guidelines and intended to fully comply with the law. In addition, they noted their appreciation for veterans and recognized the value of service animals like Arthur. In response to the incident, Cochon Volant's management took immediate action to ensure that their establishment would be more inclusive and respectful of the rights of people with disabilities. They announced an internal review of their policies and procedures, specifically aiming to educate their staff on the ADA regulations surrounding service animals. The restaurant management understood that this was more than just an unfortunate misunderstanding. It was a chance to make meaningful changes. They decided to incorporate ADA training into their employee onboarding process, ensuring that every staff member would have a clear understanding of the legal requirements and the importance of respecting service animals. But Cochon Volant didn't stop there. The restaurant made a public commitment to supporting the service dog community and veterans like Major Brown. As part of their apology, they donated to Puppies Behind Bars, the organization where Arthur had been trained. This organization plays a vital role in training service dogs for veterans and first responders, providing them with animals specially prepared to assist those with PTSD, physical disabilities, and other challenges. For Cochon Volant, this was an opportunity to make a tangible difference and show appreciation for the sacrifices made by veterans like Brown. Major Brown, despite the humiliation he felt, was touched by the restaurant's efforts to make amends. He appreciated the donation to Puppies Behind Bars and the steps they were taking to better educate their staff. Brown didn't harbor anger toward the restaurant. Rather, he saw this as an opportunity to raise awareness about a problem that many people with disabilities face every day. "It's not my intent to destroy a restaurant," he explained. "It is my intent to make them aware that they have violated a law that affects veterans with dogs and others with disabilities, and that they need to be aware that it's discrimination." For Brown, Arthur was more than just a dog. He was a constant source of comfort and support. Since returning from Afghanistan, Arthur had been there through the most challenging moments of Brown's life. The loyal canine could sense his owner's emotional state and would respond accordingly, nudging Brown or resting his head on Brown's knee when he sensed distress. Arthur even woke him from nightmares, acting as a silent but powerful reminder that he was not alone in his struggles. Brown knew that for other veterans and individuals with disabilities, service animals played an equally important role, and he wanted to ensure that the rights of service animal owners were respected everywhere. As the story gained media attention, Major Brown's experience became a rallying point for others facing similar discrimination. Advocacy groups and disability rights organizations shared the story widely, using it as a teaching moment to educate the public and promote better understanding of ADA regulations. People with disabilities, veterans, and supporters across the country voiced their shared frustration at the frequent misunderstandings surrounding service animals. Brown's story highlighted the need for widespread education on the role of service animals and the rights of those who rely on them, not only for themselves, but for those around them as well. As more people learned of Major Brown's experience, conversations erupted across social media and news platforms. Many veterans and individuals with disabilities stepped forward, sharing their own encounters of misunderstanding and discrimination. It became clear that Major Brown's experience at Cochon Volant was not an isolated incident. It was part of a larger issue rooted in a lack of awareness and empathy toward those who depend on service animals. This conversation brought the Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA, back into the spotlight, underscoring its significance and the protections it offers to individuals who rely on service animals for essential support. Major Brown felt a renewed sense of purpose as his story continued to spread. He hoped that by sharing his experience, he could help create a more inclusive environment for all. Brown's aim was not to single out Cochon Volant, but rather to draw attention to the broader need for training and awareness in all public spaces. He believed that if more people understood the vital role service dogs play in the lives of those with disabilities, instances of discrimination would decrease significantly. Education beforehand would do a lot more good than terminating people after the fact, he stated, emphasizing the importance of preventative measures. In the days following the incident, Cochon Volant's management expressed their continued regret over what had happened and confirmed that they were implementing new policies. They wanted their restaurant to be known as a welcoming space for everyone, including veterans and those with disabilities. The donation to puppies. Behind bars was a step toward making amends, but the restaurant also pledged to continually update its staff training procedures to ensure that such incidents would not happen again. Their hope was that Major Brown would not only accept their apology but also view them as allies in the movement toward a more inclusive society. As for Brown, he found a sense of peace in knowing that his story had sparked change. He knew Arthur was the reason he could handle the challenges of civilian life and find purpose in difficult situations. Arthur had been his anchor through his journey with PTSD, offering unwavering loyalty and support. And now, in a way, Arthur's presence had contributed to a shift in awareness, prompting a restaurant and its staff to take disability rights more seriously. Reflecting on the incident, Major Brown held no bitterness. Instead, he expressed gratitude that the restaurant had taken responsibility and worked toward positive change. "They've stepped up to the plate, and they are going to make some changes at the restaurant," he said. "I'm happy in my mind that it is resolved." His words were a reminder that sometimes progress is born out of misunderstanding and that real change often comes when people are willing to learn from their mistakes. As Major Brown's story continued to circulate, it served as a powerful reminder of the importance of respecting the rights of individuals with disabilities. His experience encouraged others to speak out, share their stories, and demand change. Ultimately, the story of Major Diggs Brown and his service dog Arthur became more than just a tale of unfortunate events. It became a call to action, inspiring greater awareness and compassion in society.